What's good in the hood? I'm looking at UFC 324. It's nearly here, and I'm going to be breaking down a top five bantamweight matchup between Suga Sean O'Malley, Song Yadong. This one has major title implications as both men are in the top five and have had history with the current new champion Petr Yan. Sean O'Malley has a win over him. Song Yadong has a close decision loss to him over him, and they're both itching for that rematch in the hopes of chasing gold. Only one man can emerge victorious, and I think Sean O'Malley has the edge, and here is why. So, before I go any further, I just want to again reiterate the rankings right now, and they look a lot different. Like I said, a year ago to the day, Merab was at the helm of this division, and there was no implication that he was going to change. But as I predicted, and I'm not going to rub it in the face, but I will rub it in the face because it's probably the first and best and only prediction I've ever made, especially on this channel. Petr Yan did the unthinkable. He took out Merab, and he did in decisive fashion. And it makes us think, you know, who's going to step up and fight this man. And there's a lithium amount of challengers, none more prevalent than a potential trilogy with Merab, but that's another story. The current standings, we have Umar, who's also on this card, fighting at number 2, who has a loss to Merab. Sean O'Malley, who has a win that's aged very well, a very controversial win. You can go check that out on my channel. I think it's one of the biggest robberies in favor of business. But Sean O'Malley has a win over Yan, and he's currently number 3. And if you keep going down, Song Yadong rounds out the top 5. He has a loss to Petr Yan. I believe it was 2 fights ago. It was a close decision, a unanimous decision, but he definitely pushed the pace on Yan and showed his potential. Now, like I said, back to the breakdown. Sean O'Malley, 18-3. Song Yadong, 22-8. Sean's currently on a losing streak. He's lost back-to-back fights to Merab, whereas Song Yadong, I believe, is on a 2-fight win streak. Oh no, he's 1-1 in his last 2. His actual looks like Petr Yan was 2 fights ago, was the close decision loss. He came back and defeated Henry Cejudo. While that fight was definitely monumental for his career, one of the biggest names on there, former double champ. It does not age as well, obviously, with Cejudo not looking so great in his retirement fight against Peyton Talbot. But I regress. Song Yadong, actually, his record is deceptive because while he does have 8 losses, 22-8-1 doesn't sound the best, especially for a young contender that's supposedly going to be fighting for the belt soon, leading the Chinese MMA scene. His UFC record looks a lot more clean. 11-3 with 1 draw. His only losses were to Petr Yan, the current champ, Corey Sandhagen by doctor stoppage, and Kyle Phillips. And that one was back in 2021. So overall, his career has looked pretty well since he debuted back in 2017. So like I said, a lot of his losses were actually, as you can see, kind of earlier in his career, 2014, 2015. He had a couple on and off losses in 16, 17. But ever since then, his only really losses were to some of the top contenders and the champ themselves. But on the flip side, Sean O'Malley, you gotta love shoes. Damn ads. Suga Sean, I believe similar record. He is 10-3 in the UFC. 1 no contest due to, I believe, eye pokes. Like I said, his record's now getting a little more beat up with back-to-back losses to Merab. Somewhat justifiable, but still not good. Before that, he was on a very tremendous run. 1, 2, 3, no contest, 4, 5, 6 wins in a row. Before that, he had his tough streak-breaking loss to Marlon Vera due to those pesky nerve kicks. But all in all, he's had a pretty successful UFC career. Was he fast rush, especially after the Yan win? Definitely. And like I said, it was a very controversial split decision. But he took out Sterling, which is monumental. Probably one of the best age wins, and Sterling to this day is still looking decent featherweight. And on the right side, you can even see too is, and again, this is business, and he's entertained, but the man, he performs well. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 performance bonuses, and they all were stemming from wins. So at the end of the day, Sean O'Malley, like I said, it's what I already shared. He is a spectacular finisher. Very good striker, pretty good power for bantamweight, at least precision wise. Good amount of KOs. We haven't seen a good one in recent memory, I believe, but that's not to say we can't see one now. So matchup wise, this one's tricky because on paper, I feel like it's pretty elementary. Sean O'Malley, he's a striker by heart. He's not going to grapple. He can grapple and has a degree of jiu-jitsu thanks to his coach at Red Hawk. Recap, go check him out. But yeah, Sean O'Malley, the expectations, he's going to strike, and he's going to strike a lot. 6.3 per minute versus 4.5, 61% significant strikes. I expect this is going to be something that he's going to have to show out because he's on back-to-back losses, and it feels like one more loss, and he's either going to retire or he's going to have to accept the fact that he's out of title contention. And I think he knows that. And like I said, we haven't seen a KO in recent memory, but statistically, 2 out of 3 times he wins, it's going to be by KO. And when he does, it's fairly spectacular. It's going to be some nasty knees. It's going to be a cross. It's going to be some little bit of ground and pound, maybe a little bit of fadeaway shot, this or that. But he's got some stiff competition. Song Yadong, like I said, I don't believe outside of the doctor stoppage, and that was by cut. Like I said, it was a very deep cut. Sandhagen, known for his spinny elbows, the blood and all that, they had to stop at, and that was at the end of round 4. Other than that, he hasn't been stopped in the UFC. And let's see, all the way back in his career, doesn't say why, it just says loss. Back in, was it 2016? So yeah, I mean, Sean's definitely taking a up and comer, someone who is, I want to say the young blood, but he is what? Let's see how old he is. 28. So he's facing a young up and coming guy that, like I said, has shown that he could be at the top of the division. He's just hasn't had that consistent run yet, and he's been defeated obviously by the cream of the crop, but he seems to be getting better. He looked very good in his last fight with Cejudo. Again, didn't age the best, but I think he's pretty well rounded in the sense that he can wrestle, and he knows wrestling is something that you might need to employ as needed, especially in a 3-round fight. He has power. He seems to have a nice chin. No homo, but the man's got a nice chin. And he knows exactly, just as everyone else does, he knows exactly what Sean O'Malley's going to be doing. Sean O'Malley's going to be playing that distance. He's got he's got a sizable reach advantage too, I believe. Matchup stats: 72, 5-inch reach advantage with a 2-inch leg reach, 3-inch height. Like, he's going to have to get in the pocket. He's going to have to pressure, and he's also going to have to potentially employ, if it's not straight wrestling, he's going to have to do potentially some clinch work in this night, because A, it's going to tire out Sean, and B, I think it's going to make it a lot more capable for him to, like I said, to get some chippy uppercuts, like I said, in the clinch and make this fight dirty. Because if he doesn't, I feel like Sean's going to do what he's done in the past. He's going to be able to play distance, get that volume game in, establish his jab, start styling, like I said, with some crazy strikes and this and that to probably keep Yadong on his toes. And then next thing you know, it's going to be 2 rounds down. It's going to be 3 rounds down. And 3 rounds is one of those things where you're down that first round. You're constantly trying to play catch up, and it's really rough because I think Sean O'Malley, similar to when I break down the main event, the current way they score it, which is damage, Sean, especially with his flashy strikes, even if some of it doesn't always land full on, I feel like he's just one of those guys that is extremely favored in their scoring. He might get outworked just like he did with Yan, where Yan was he outstruck Yan, but Yan overall mixed the grappling and still got damaged in this and that, and probably should have won the fight. But at the end of the day, he caused bleeding on Yan's face in that fight. He got a knockdown or two. His strikes, like I said, they have a real like oomph to them when they do land, which again is a credit to, I think, his precision, speed, and baseline power. But I feel like Yadong's at a huge disadvantage of just, if he doesn't get like, if he doesn't do some real damage early on in that fight to put Sean on his toes and, make him second guess, like I said, constantly pumping out strikes, then I feel like it's going to come down to the fact that Song Yadong's not going to be able to catch him, and time's going to fly by. And even if he starts looking good later in the fight, he's going to lose like a 2-1 decision. And that's where my prediction is. I think Sean O'Malley, I don't think Song Yadong's the guy to pull out some flashy, incredible old school Suga finish, Snoop Dogg style. But I don't think he stylistically, unless he shows some unprecedented amount of offensive wrestling, which is very reasonable because I don't think Sean, that has always been his kryptonite. But he does have decent wrestling, and I don't think Song Yadong's at the level of even Petr Yan's wrestling, where Peter was taking down Sean at will, I would say, in their fight. I don't think he's at that level, at least we've seen. So it just makes me think this is going to go to a decision. Pretty low odds of a finish. And if it does go to finish, I feel like it's going to come from Song Yadong just because he's going to be a little more reckless. Sean has probably more to lose because on his end, there's almost a guarantee he can push for a rematch with Yan for the belt. Song Yadong, if he wins, he needs the win to stay in that contendership. But at the same time, he's definitely the farthest outside of, especially if Umar gets the win. If Umar gets the win this weekend too, I feel like Sean or Umar and even Merab have higher probabilities of getting the shot than Song Yadong. Song Yadong's going to have to fight the odd man out in that equation. And obviously he's fighting Sean. So he's either going to have to fight probably Merab or Umar next, which is kind of a rough outing for him. But that's why he's going to absolutely need to get this win. It's the biggest name on his, arguably it's bigger than Cejudo if he can get the win. Definitely with how where Sean's still at with his career compared to when he fought Henry. So he absolutely needs this win. I think he's going to get a little reckless by the third round if he gets frustrated. But I think this is all for Sean to, take. And I think Sean's going to be extra mode by the fact that business is on his side. The rematch is, even if it's undeserved, it's there. The storyline is there. Jan's going to probably want that win back. And for him, it's a winnable fight. It's a lot more winnable than having to fight Merab again. It's definitely a lot more winnable than having to fight Umar. So that's my prediction. Sean O'Malley, he's going to look good. He's going to look stylish, but he's going to be cautious. And he doesn't need the finish. He just needs a spectacular, I think, performance, which can just be a 30-27 shutout. And even a competitive fight of the night, 29-28. In his favor. So that's my prediction. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Sean O'Malley, is he going to be on the White House fighting for gold this year, or is he going to be retired? Do you think we're finally getting to see the end of the Suga show? I hope not, because he's still young. 31, very young, very young for the game. And if he leaves, are we going to see him in boxing? Let me know in the comments, and let me know what you think. Who's going to win this one?